Kate Bush, the uncrowned queen of art rock, Grand Duchess of experimental pop, and above all, one of the most influential artists of the past 45 years. You can hear her influence in countless female musicians like Tori Amos, Björk, Florence Welch from Florence and the Machine, and of course, Annie Clark, better known as Saint Vincent. Whenever I hear a female musician pushing boundaries and embracing experimentation, I almost instantly think of Kate Bush. She wasn't the first woman to create eccentric output and achieve success with it, but she was the one who permanently reshaped pop music in the late 70s and 80s. Kate has a unique vision and always strays from the beaten path. That is what makes her so extraordinary. This year marks the 40th anniversary of her masterpiece, Hounds of Love, a perfect reason to revisit the record in depth. Though, truth be told, I never really need much convincing to dedicate time to Kate Bush. What a woman. Hello, and welcome to a new episode of We're Only in It for the Music, a brand new YouTube series that takes you on a musical journey through videos about pop, rock, jazz, blues, soul, and funk. In other words, from ABBA to Zappa and everything in between. If you're enjoying this series, don't forget to click like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you'll always be the first to know when a new episode drops. But enough of that. Never mind the bollocks. We're only in it for the music. Hounds of Love, released in September 1985, is the album where Kate Bush perfectly united artistic freedom and commercial success. Many artists end up having to compromise or dilute their ideas to please the record label, but Kate never gave in. That makes it all the more remarkable that this record sold millions worldwide without sacrificing her integrity. She belongs to a rare group of musicians who manage to combine artistry with commercial triumph. Think of the women I mentioned earlier, but also Peter Gabriel, David Bowie, Brian Eno, and David Byrne. Hounds of Love is a textbook example of that balance. High art, groundbreaking creativity, and yet immensely successful. How did she pull that off? Let's break it down. It's in the trees. It's coming. In 1978, a 19-year-old Kate Bush made her sensational debut with Wuthering Heights, discovered by none other than Pink Floyd's David Gilmour. The track, inspired by Emily Bronte's novel of the same name, spent 4 weeks at #1 and immediately put Kate on the map. Soon after came her first two albums, The Kick Inside, 1978, and just 9 months later, Lionheart. That second record was something of a rush job and felt less strong than her debut. Critics weren't as impressed as they were with The Kick Inside, but it proved Bush was no one-hit wonder. By her fourth record, The Dreaming, from 1982, she turned everything upside down. Working in her own studio and inspired by Peter Gabriel's experiments with the Fairlight synthesizer, Kate made a bold, uncompromising artistic statement. Commercially, it flopped. The music was too strange, too experimental for most listeners. Yet critics praised her daring approach. Years later, The Dreaming would be hailed as an influential masterpiece, name-checked by artists like Björk and Porcupine Tree's Steven Wilson. Where The Dreaming was difficult and alienating, Hounds of Love from 1985 struck the perfect balance between accessibility and experimentation. The album was split into two halves. Side A, packed with art pop songs and singles, and Side B, The Ninth Wave, a conceptual suite about a woman drifting at sea overnight after a shipwreck, struggling to survive. Time to dive deeper into the songs of Hounds of Love. The album kicks off with one of the most iconic songs in Kate's rich catalog. The rolling Linn drums, the Fairlight synth motif, and her atmospheric vocals. It's all there. Running Up That Hill immediately pulls you into another dimension. Kate imagines making a deal with God so she could trade places with her partner, to truly understand what it's like to be the other. It's such a clever, romantic, and profound concept, elevating the track far above the average love song. The music is deceptively catchy, but lyrically, Bush goes straight for the core of human emotion. Unaware, I'm tearing you asunder. Oh, There Is Thunder in Our Hearts. When first released, the single only reached number 9 in the charts, but 37 years later, it finally hit number 1 after being featured in the Netflix series Stranger Things. Sometimes justice takes a while.
It's in the trees. It's coming.
No time to catch your breath, the title track Hounds of Love bursts out of the speakers right after. Another undeniable banger, this song perfectly translates the anxious, hunted feeling of the lyrics into its driving rhythm and arrangement. In lines like, "Take my shoes off and throw them in the lake," you can clearly hear echoes of what Björk later developed, switching in an instant from gentle singing to primal growling. The track is irresistibly catchy, but there's a veil of darkness hanging over it. The sample at the beginning comes straight from the horror movie Night of the Demon. If you don't listen closely, you might think it's just an upbeat pop song. But beneath the surface lies menace and dread. Much like the Police's Every Breath You Take, it's radio-friendly on the outside, unsettling at the core. The momentum continues with The Big Sky. On many albums, this would easily be the standout track. On Hounds of Love, it's simply one of many gems, testament to the record's extraordinary consistency. Bush herself explained in a 1985 fan club newsletter, "This song is about someone sitting and watching the clouds change, like many of us have done as a child. Sometimes the clouds will change into shapes that remind you of a person or object. I think we forget these pleasures as adults. We don't get as much time to enjoy those kinds of things, or think about them. We feel silly about what we used to do naturally." The song is also suggesting the coming of the next flood, how perhaps the fools on the hills will be the wise ones. The tempo finally slows with the brooding ballad Mother Stands for Comfort. It's a song about the unconditional love of a mother, even when her child has committed a terrible act. Here, a mother protects her son despite the fact that he's guilty of murder. At first, listen, it seems tender and soothing, but the lyrics reveal something darker. Once again, Bush disguises heavy subject matter in deceptively gentle packaging. And again, just like Every Breath You Take, it fools the casual listener before the true meaning sinks in. Then we get one of the album's absolute highlights, the breathtaking Cloud Busting. The song unfurls slowly, like a flower opening toward the sun. Bush is known for her inventive melodies, but this must be one of her finest. Like Wuthering Heights, Cloud Busting is based on literature. In this case, Peter Reich's 1973 memoir, A Book of Dreams, which tells of his father Wilhelm Reich, a controversial psychoanalyst who built machines called cloudbusters that could make it rain. In 1985, Bush recalled discovering the book by chance. "I didn't know anything about the writer. I just pulled it off the shelf. It looked interesting, and it was an incredible story. It's about Peter Reich as a child, through his eyes looking at his father and their relationship. It's incredibly beautiful, very emotive, very innocent. His father built cloud-busting machines, and he and his father would go out together and make it rain. Unfortunately, the book's climax is where his father is arrested, taken away from him. Suddenly, his father is gone. It's very sad as well." Bush later said she was nervous about how Peter Reich would react to her interpretation. But he approved, telling her the song and video were deeply moving. That, she said, was the ultimate reward. Musically, Cloud Busting builds patiently toward a restrained climax. The wordless backing vocals at the end create an unforgettable moment of goosebumps. Intelligent in arrangement yet never pretentious, it closes side A on a note of sheer beauty. With the exception of Mother Stands for Comfort, every track on side A was released as a single and became a hit somewhere in the world. Plenty of albums are packed with hits, but rarely are they all concentrated on a single LP side. On Hounds of Love, it works perfectly. If you just want the hits, you can spin side A and be satisfied. Side B, titled The Ninth Wave, is an entirely different beast. It's a true song cycle that tells the story of a woman drifting in the ocean at night after a shipwreck. It's cold, it's dark, and she's completely alone. The suite follows her mental and emotional journey until morning. Here, Kate experiments freely, creating her own distinctive brand of female art rock. Compared to her debut, The Kick Inside, which still had the sound of a precocious young artist, Hounds of Love shows Bush at the absolute height of her powers. From this point forward, she would never release a weak album. Some might be more accessible than others, but mediocrity was never an option. That uncompromising approach is precisely what earned Kate Bush such lasting respect. The suite opens with The Haunting and Dream of Sheep, a comforting song about a woman lost at sea, longing for sleep to escape her dire situation. But if she truly falls asleep, she risks drowning. The lyrics sway between surrender and vigilance, setting the stage for the rest of the narrative. Next is Under Ice. At first, it describes a serene, dreamlike scene of skating across a frozen lake. But when the choir begins to sing, there's something moving under the ice, moving under ice through water, trying to. It's me. Get out of the cold water. It's me. Something. It's me. Someone help them. Because Kate responds to the background choir with the words, "It's me," a tension arises. The choir notices something moving under the ice. While the singer tries to indicate that it is herself, the idyllic dream image quickly vanishes, and the overall tone of the song grows increasingly ominous. It feels like the first signs of a nightmare. The real horror comes into play with Waking the Witch, a song that may be necessary for the storyline of this mini opera, but to my personal taste, it feels a bit too much like The Exorcist. It has a similar vibe to the cavemen section in Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells. Specifically, Waking the Witch is about the moment when the woman drifts in and out of consciousness while her mind experiences strange visions. The following themes are laid out in this song: hallucinations and confusion. The music and the voice fragments, such as the man saying, "Wake up, love," symbolize her slipping away into a kind of dream state. Religious and guilt associations. There are fragments of voices that resemble a church interrogation or a witch trial. This can symbolize her inner struggle with guilt, fear, and judgment as she fights to stay awake. The witch trial motif. The song uses imagery of a witch's condemnation as a metaphor for being interrogated, tested, or almost sentenced by the elements and by fate. Ominous atmosphere. The alternation between calm and aggressive passages mimics both the ebb and flow of the sea and the mental shocks of nearly drowning. In the context of the ninth wave, Waking the Witch is crucial, even though it does not offer a pleasant listening experience. But that is exactly the point of this track. This is the moment in the story where the protagonist nearly gives up but is still urged to keep fighting. The witch in the title is not literally a witch, but rather the part of her mind she must wake up in order to survive. The song contains several elements that are each crafted with great skill, so let's dive into them. We're already out at open sea. Layered voice fragment. The track begins with soft, warm voices, including phrases like, "Wake up, love," "Listen to me," moving around your head in stereo. Not all of these voices are Kate's. Some were recorded from her friends or family on a reel-to-reel tape. They range from comforting to threatening, leaving you unsure whether the voices are trying to save her or condemn her. There are cut and distorted samples. Voices are sometimes sped up or warped into near-demonic tones, especially when the witch trial section begins. Bush used the then revolutionary Fairlight CMI to chop, pitch, and loop sounds, creating a fragmented, dreamlike effect. The abrupt dynamic shifts. The song jumps suddenly from calm, almost heavenly singing to aggressive, pounding drums and bass. These shifts feel like being jolted from a dream into ice-cold water, perfectly fitting the concept. The drum programming with human unpredictability. Del Palmer, her partner at the time, assisted with the drum programming, but Bush wanted it to avoid sounding too tight. There's a slight swing in the rhythm, keeping it unsettling. The sound design as storytelling. The chopping sounds that resemble axe blows or chains symbolize the threat of condemnation or execution. The helicopter-like sounds in the background enhance the sense of chaos and menace. Her vocal acting performance. At times, Kate Bush suddenly launches into high, shrill screams, as if being interrogated or drowning. The contrast between whispers and screams makes the experience physically uncomfortable for the listener, exactly as intended. As a listener, you feel trapped inside her head, overwhelmed by voices, noise, and sudden shocks. That makes Waking the Witch probably one of the most experimental pop tracks of the 80s, and a prime example of how Kate Bush uses sound as a psychological weapon. Calmness returns as we hear the intro of Watching You Without Me. Yet there is still no reason to breathe a sigh of relief. Bush sings about ordinary, everyday matters, interspersed with the phrase, "I'm not here." Her absence does not go unnoticed, but Kate seems to be singing from the perspective of a wandering spirit visiting the house she once lived in. trying to reach out to her loved ones left behind. Bush sounds almost desperate in her attempts to communicate, but she becomes increasingly aware of the fact that her partner cannot hear her and therefore cannot help. Her spirit haunts the house, while her physical body floats somewhere out at sea. The 1980s are often remembered for shallow synth pop with meaningless lyrics, but this is on a whole different level. Kate Bush herself said the following about this specific song in an interview: "These are all like my own personal worst nightmares. Seeing their loved ones sitting there, waiting for them, but there's no way that you can actually communicate." The composition is strikingly minimal. Percussion is sparse, with a slow, ticking drum pattern, like a clock quietly ticking in a room. A metaphor for the endless waiting of those at home, waiting for someone who will never return. Bush sings in a subdued, almost resigned way, which makes the sense of distance and pain even more intense. Lyrics like, "You watch the clock," "Move the slow hand," "I should have been home hours ago," express the tragic tension of time passing without ever making it home. Yet the song serves as an emotional bridge to survival. It follows "Waking the Witch," an intense, chaotic track full of hallucinations, and becomes a serene yet heartbreaking oasis, a ghostly moment of reflection and loss. Then "Jig of Life" bursts in, an energy boost symbolizing the fight for survival. It feels as though "Watching You Without Me" represents her final moment of clarity, farewell, or contemplation before resuming the struggle. One might question whether the Michael Flatley Riverdance-like music that suddenly hits you truly fits within the broader picture Bush sketches with the ninth wave, but it does pull the listener out of the death and destruction we've been forced to endure up to this point. Celtic influences are never far away in Kate Bush's music, and although "Jig of Life" may sound a little like an odd one out in terms of musical framing, it turns out to be the major turning point in the ninth wave. In the storyline, the protagonist is still adrift at sea, exhausted after the shipwreck. In "Jig of Life," her future self appears to her like a spirit or vision. That future self pleads with her, "Don't you dare give up now. I'm the life you haven't lived yet." It is an existential wake-up call. Fight for your life, because the future still holds so much for you. The jig, a fast traditional dance, is symbolic here. It is the dance of life itself. You can hear this musically in the Celtic folk influences. Willian pipes, fiddle, bouzouki, and bodhran, an Irish drum, create the feeling of a celebration or reunion, but also of roots and tradition. Sean Keane, known from the Chieftains, plays the fiddle, and the entire instrumentation was deliberately kept authentic, a sharp contrast to the other songs dominated by the fairlight and lindrums. The track begins lively, but toward the end the intensity builds up, as though life itself is being pumped back into her body. Here, Bush shows that she imposes no limits on herself in terms of musical styles and does everything to keep her art as free as possible. Halfway through, you hear a spoken section with an Irish accent, performed by her brother Paddy Bush, addressing the future. It sounds like a mythical moment, a fairy tale figure warning the heroine. Survival is not just instinct. It is also the will to experience a future. The song is a celebration of the strength within you, even when you are physically at your weakest. Within the ninth wave, this is the turning point, a transformation from passively enduring to actively fighting to live. Then we arrive at the song, "Hello, Earth." The track opens with a sample of astronaut Dan Brandenstein and NASA. Columbia, now 9 times the speed of sound. Roger that, Dan. I've got a solid TACAN locked on. TACAN 23. The tracking data, map data, and pre-planned trajectory are all one line on the block. The protagonist is still drifting in the sea, but now she experiences a kind of out-of-body moment. She sees the Earth from space, as if she detaches from her body and looks down on her own situation from above. It is both peaceful and frightening. The distance makes everything appear small and beautiful, but also highlights her vulnerability. It is the moment of contemplation. If I let go now, I'll become part of that greater whole. Do I want that, or do I want to return to my life? The music begins very slowly, with a floating tempo. Slow, wave-like chords reminiscent of a rocking sea. Low synth pads and bass guitar create an immense, open soundscape. All of this contributes to the cinematic atmosphere. Bush once said the idea came from film scenes where you see Earth from a spaceship. Fragments of film-like suspense music are woven in, almost as if it were a soundtrack. One could easily make a short feature film out of the ninth wave. It remains a mystery to me why no official film has ever been made. In the middle of the song, you hear a fragment of the traditional piece Tsinskaro, sung by a Georgian choir, lifted from an LP and built into the track. This creates an otherworldly, timeless feeling, as if you are witnessing something that exists outside of human perception of time. We've already heard elements of Celtic traditional music, so why shouldn't Kate go a step further and bring in a Georgian choir? In Kate Bush's world, anything goes. No boundaries, no compromises. Kate's only in it for the music. Music as high art, that above all. A rendition of the Tsinskaro song can be found on the Mojo compilation album Thunder in Our Hearts, a Kate Bush companion. After the choir, the track slowly builds tension again, with swelling strings and percussion. The song ends calmly, but with a lingering sense of menace, a bridge to the final track, The Morning Fog. The following themes appear in Hello Earth: connection and distance, seeing Earth from afar, beautiful and fragile, yet indifferent to your individual struggle. Spiritual experience. The blending of earthly and cosmic sounds suggests an almost mystical, out-of-body journey, a harbinger of decision. After Hello Earth comes the morning fog, where the protagonist finally wakes up and is saved. This song is therefore the very last moment of reflection before her return to life. Where much of the ninth wave suite is dark, oppressive, or surreal, this song feels like a sudden breakthrough of sunlight after a long, stormy night. The protagonist is finally rescued after her night at sea, and the morning fog is both literal, the mist in which she is pulled from the water, and figurative, the haze lifting in her mind. She experiences a profound, renewed appreciation for life, for loved ones, family, nature, for everything around her. The lyrics sound like a grateful litany. I tell my mother, I tell my father, I tell my loved ones, I tell my brothers how much I love them. After fear of death and isolation, there is now connection and warmth. The music is marked by a much lighter tempo and key. After the slow, ominous Hello Earth, this sounds almost like folk pop with an upbeat guitar groove. Acoustic instruments such as guitar and bass create a homely, earthly atmosphere. Cheerful modulations enhance the feeling of relief and openness. Bush sings less theatrically and more intimately, as if she is truly speaking to someone. This makes the universal themes she touches on feel very personal, reaching the listener directly. Survival brings clarity. Near-death experiences make one value the small things in life enormously. There is a strong focus on connection. The emphasis on telling and naming loved ones shows that communication and the expression of love are essential. The morning fog is not a bombastic finale, but a soft, sincere closing. Precisely that is what makes it so powerful. An understated climax, much like the beautiful cloud busting, which closed side A of this album so wonderfully. In the narrative of the ninth wave, this is the homecoming, physical, emotional, and spiritual. It completes the circle, from fear in and dream of sheep and waking the witch, through struggle and jig of life, to reflection in Hello Earth, and ultimately to peace and love. The morning fog closes side B in the same way one would end a novel. So to sum it all up for you, the suite traces the woman's mental and emotional journey until morning. One and dream of sheep. She floats in the water, half in shock. Sleep tempts her with warmth and safety, but she knows if she gives in, she'll drown. 2. Under ice. In a dream, she skates across a frozen lake. She sees someone trapped beneath the ice, until she realizes it's herself. Panic sets in. 3. Waking the witch. She drifts in and out of consciousness. It feels like a witch trial, a metaphor for the battle between life and death. 4. Watching you without me. Home in vision but unseen. Aching isolation. The loneliness is unbearable. 5. Jig of life. Suddenly, her future self appears. She's reminded of the life she still has ahead. Irish dance music symbolizes the life force surging back into her. 6. Hello Earth. She seems to float above the earth, gazing from cosmic distance. She's tempted to let go, but chooses life. 7. The morning fog. Morning breaks. She's rescued and overwhelmed with gratitude. She longs to tell her family and loved ones how much she loves them. It closes the journey on a deeply human note.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Woman almost drowned, has an existential crisis but got saved just in time.
Almost got it. One more time.
Woman, water, witch, will to live, warmth, waking, winched, wholeness. After fully diving into Hounds of Love, and especially Side B, I only appreciate this masterpiece even more. Kate Bush is so much more than a singer and songwriter. Her versatility makes her a true artist in every sense of the word. There is simply only one Kate. Sonically, it often reminds me of Peter Gabriel's So, from 1986, though that album was released a year later. That's what happens when you discover music retrospectively. You draw connections outside the strict chronological timeline. What makes Hounds of Love so special to me is the structure. One side full of singles and hits, the other a conceptual suite. It gives me a choice, to go wild with the bangers on side A, or to immerse myself in the cinematic adventure of the ninth wave. For this review, I listened to side B repeatedly on its own for the very first time, and it almost feels like a mini-album by itself. Had Bush released it as a separate EP, it would have made total sense, but might have been ignored by the mainstream. Instead, it elevates Hounds of Love to iconic status. So ultimately, it's a gift that Kate included this artistic journey within her most commercially successful album. A perfect blend of accessibility and depth. Kate Bush, what a woman. Hounds of Love, what an album. My admiration for her was already immense, but after this journey, it has only grown deeper. My favorite songs from Hounds of Love? Pretty much the entire side A. It's packed with gems. As for the ninth wave on side B, I believe it should always be experienced as a whole. Still, if I had to pick highlights, my favorites would be And Dream of Sheep, Watching You Without Me, Hello Earth, and the closing track, The Morning Fog. You can listen to all the music from this series in the Spotify playlist. The link is in the description below. And that wraps up episode 14. That was Kate Bush. That was Hounds of Love. What do you think of Kate Bush? What do you think of Hounds of Love? Let me know in the comments because I'm always curious about your opinions. Check out the social media pages on Facebook and Instagram for all the latest updates, because I will follow you if you follow me. All links are in the description below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. And in the meantime, drop the needle, press play, and remember, we're only in it for the music.